Hi, and welcome to National Marine Sanctuaries with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Our program will begin promptly at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, noon Pacific. We are experiencing some technical difficulties here on our end. We are unable to get our webcams up, but we do have presentation slides prepared, so we will be running through the program on our slides. We apologize for any concern this has you at, but we will begin shortly at 3 p.m. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live interaction with National Marine Sanctuaries and Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Today, we are exploring the depths of Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Unfortunately, the team that is presenting to you today is having some technical difficulties within the GoToWebinar system with our webcams. Fortunately, you should still be able to hear us and see our screens, so we are going to move forward with the presentation. We do apologize that our webcams are not visible. I am going to switch over the controls to Jesse from Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants.
Hi there. Well, thank you so much for that introduction, Hannah. And oh, there we go. Show my screen. There we go. Hi there, everyone. So yes, my name's Jesse, and I'm a host and producer with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Over the last month or so, we've been featuring all sorts of amazing stories from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, highlighting some of the coolest marine sanctuaries in the entire world. So today, we are going to be highlighting, as Hannah said, the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary with research specialist Chad King, who's going to be joining us in just a second. For those of you who are keen, you can also check out Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants YouTube channel to check out our other NOAA programs, and this one will appear there live in a number of days as well, so we encourage you to check that out. We're also going to be taking questions in two ways. So you'll be able to go on the chat bar right here live in the GoToMeeting to type in questions, and I'll share as many as I can when we finish the presentation. And you can also join us on Slido. So Slido is a great app, allows you to share questions, upvote your favorites, and take part in some interactive quizzes we've set up for you guys today. So I'll share the Slido general code into the chat bar, and if you use the event code Monterey for our Monterey Bay today, so just Monterey, you'll be able to take part in those quizzes. So I encourage you to do that. Without further ado, thank you so much for joining us today, Chad, and if you want to take us away and dive in with your presentation, that would be fantastic.
I am going to take back control. This is Hannah, and I am going to share my screen. So today we have with us Chad King, who is the research specialist at Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. I myself am the education specialist for NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries, currently based in the Washington, D.C. area. Before I let Chad take it away with telling you all about the depths of Monterey Bay, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of our National Marine Sanctuary system. So we are a network of 14 underwater parks and 2 marine national monuments. Here you see our map of our system. The yellow squares represent proposed national marine sanctuaries, where the blue circles represent sanctuaries that are already established. We cover and spans 600,000 square miles of marine waters. So I also want to really emphasize that, yes, our webcams are not working, but we still are going to make this super engaging with Slido. So I have our first Slido question. Have you heard of NOAA's National Marine Sanctuaries before? So Jesse, if you want to pipe in and let us know what the results are coming in, that would be awesome.
Fantastic. So we've got 13 respondees so far, 94% yes, 1% maybe. No one has said no yet. Keep pouring in consistently. Yes, 90% plus of people have heard of your sanctuaries before.
That is awesome. Good to hear. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a virtual tour of our National Marine Sanctuary system through some stunning photographs. Here we have, starting off in our most northwest sanctuary. It's actually the most northwest corner of continental US. It is Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary, where you can see here there's some vibrant tidal ecosystems. Going further south in California, we have Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary, and Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, all really close to each other. We'll get to dive in deeper to Monterey Bay with Chad later on. Maybe he'll even talk about this octopus garden that you see on the screen now. Further south in California, off the coast of Santa Barbara, we have Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. Going across to the Pacific, we have Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument, which is actually the United States' largest marine conservation area. In Hawaii, we have Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary, which protects the warm waters and breeding grounds of humpback whales. Even further in the Pacific, we have American Samoa. Off the coast of Texas, we have Flower Garden Banks National Marine Sanctuary that actually has manta rays. Off of the coast of Florida, from Miami down to the Dry Tortugas, we have Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. We protect live bottom reefs in Gray's Reef National Marine Sanctuary. Our very first National Marine Sanctuary designated was the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary off the coast of North Carolina that protects a Civil War era shipwreck. Our newest National Marine Sanctuary, which was established in November of 2019, so just a few months ago, is Mallows Bay Potomac River National Marine Sanctuary, which protects partially submerged shipwrecks from the Ghost Fleet. Further north, we have Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary in Massachusetts Bay, known for fantastic whale watching and bird watching. And even in the Great Lakes, we have Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, which protects over 200 shipwrecks. So my next Slido question for you is, have you ever visited a National Marine Sanctuary? Now that we've gone on our short virtual tour, maybe you'll have some insight on if you've ever been to one.
Fantastic. And again, we're getting more input than we did last time. And the vast majority, so 75% or so of our respondees have visited a sanctuary in the past. And that just means that a quarter of them will have to get a chance to go to one soon.
That is awesome and very true. Hopefully, Chad's presentation today will let you dive a little deeper into Monterey Bay. Oh, and so a little bit more about what National Marine Sanctuaries do. We protect everything from the sea giants like the humpback whales to the small sea life like corals and small reef fish. We are a place that protects special areas with abundant biodiversity. And we also provide shelter for some of the most charismatic marine species like this green sea turtle and Hawaiian monk seal. We offer protection for great maritime heritage resources like all of the shipwrecks in Thunder Bay. And we are mandated to do resource protection to keep these special places here for generations to come. Another part of our mandate within the National Marine Sanctuaries Act is to do education and outreach like this presentation to you all today. So these are very special marine places, and they are your special marine places. They're yours to paddle, to fish, to snorkel, to surf, and to boat. So I did mention this at the very beginning, and it's our first quiz-like question of the day. How many square miles do marine sanctuaries encompass?
All right, we've just started getting answers pouring in. So far, 75% of people say our middle answer of 600,000 square miles, but the largest answer of 1.425 million is slowly getting up there. About 50 respondees so far, 2/3 stick with 600,000 square miles.
That is the correct answer. 600,000 square miles is correct. Great job, everybody. And with that, I'm going to introduce the reason why we are bringing Chad King from Monterey Bay to us today. So in 2019, NOAA awarded a Telepresence Exploration Award, meaning telepresence meaning ship-to-shore technologies. And Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary was one of the sites that was explored by Ocean Exploration Trust, one of the grant recipients. So Chad, I am going to make you the presenter and let us know a little bit more about the expedition that Ocean Exploration Trust did in Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary.
All right, absolutely. Thank you very much, Hannah. All right, so I assume everyone can see my screen now?
Good to go.
And we're good to go. All right, fantastic. So unfortunately, our webcams are not working today with GoToMeeting, but that's all right. We'll still move forward because you don't want to see us necessarily. You want to see the pretty animals from the deep. So I'm going to be talking about that, octopus gardens and a whale fall. Just a little bit about my background. I am a research specialist with Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. I've been there for almost 18 years, and I was traditionally trained as a kind of a kelp forest nearshore ecologist. And this is just an assortment of pictures I've taken over the years underwater. I've done a lot of scuba diving up and down the Big Sur coast of Central California, counting fishes, invertebrates, and algae inside and outside of kelp forests and marine protected areas along the coastline. But more recently, we've been getting into deep sea research over quite some time. So just to kind of bring you back to the big picture, I think most of us on this call know that most of the Earth is water. 71%, in fact, of the Earth is covered by water. But the oceans, because of the three-dimensionality of it, because it can get so deep, contains 99% of the actual living space on Earth. Nothing lives in the air. Certainly birds and other things can fly, but nothing is permanently suspended except for maybe some bacteria and viruses and things of that nature. So that it is the largest living space on Earth, yet we don't know that much about it. 95% of the oceans remain unexplored. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of a contextual pictures here of kind of the relative depths of the ocean. So imagine the entire slide here is the depths down to the deepest part of the deepest ocean, which is Challenger Deep and Mariana Trench. So the surface is at the top, and we have over 11,000 meters at those depths at the bottom. Well, I'm trained as a scuba diver, but I can only go about 40 meters deep max, and most often we're at 20 meters or less. So that's barely, not even the tip of the iceberg, literally. It's such a small part of the world's oceans. As you go deeper, there's the Eiffel Tower at 350 meters, still relatively slice of the ocean. Nuclear submarines can go to almost 500 meters, designated by that red line there. Sperm whales, however, are one of the deepest diving marine mammals and can go to 1,000 meters. And of course, that's where there is no more light. Most of the world's oceans are in complete darkness. There is no light. So if you were to go down to the depth of the Grand Canyon, that's only about 1,800 meters, still relatively shallow in comparison with the deepest oceans. Now, where we went was 3,200 to 3,300 meters. And again, we're not even halfway there, but that's really deep. It's over 2 miles deep in Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. However, the average depth of the ocean is just slightly deeper at 3,690. And then even if you took Mount Everest on its side or on its tip and turned it upside down and put it in the ocean, it still wouldn't reach Challenger Deep. So the deepest oceans are deeper than the tallest mountains. So Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, Hannah covered some of this, but it was established in 1992. It's almost 6,000 square miles and has over 276 miles of shoreline that we need to manage. And it's over 2 miles deep in their deepest areas. We're going to be going to a place called Davidson Seamount, and it was added to the sanctuary in 2008. It's a very large mountain. It's one of the largest seamounts in the west coast of the US. It's 26 miles long, 8 miles wide, and it's almost 8,000 feet tall. So it's kind of tall as the Sierra Nevada, if you're familiar living in California or the west coast. If you go up to ski, that's kind of the height of this seamount. but it last erupted about 9.8 million years ago. It is an extinct volcano, but it's still considered one of the best studied seamounts in the world, but we still don't know that much about it. So Davidson Seamount itself was first explored by Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary and Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute in the year 2000. And we discovered just an incredible assortment of deep sea corals and sponges there, like this Paragorgia. It's called a bubblegum coral, and they can get over 3 meters wide and tall. They're very majestic corals. There's sweeping currents pushing food up the sides of this mountain that really influences the size and distribution of these wonderful things. And that led, the discovery of these massive corals and sponges led to the addition of the area to Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. My apologies, just one second. I think my my slideshow has frozen.
If it's ever going to freeze, that's a beautiful picture for it to freeze on.
I know,
It is
right?
a photo of a pink coral from Mbari.
Well, of course, it usually does happen like this, ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen.
we do see your mouse.
Yes, it looks like it has decided to freeze.
Well, it'd be no fun if there weren't any technical difficulties, I suppose.
Yeah,
And
Rob,
again,
with
so while we're
webcams and
frozen, Chad and
others.
Hannah, just a quick note, is there a place online that we always ask at the end of every Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants session, where can people turn to learn more about these sort of sanctuaries? So you might have incorporated that in the presentation anyway, but Hannah, while we're waiting and while Chad's getting his talk back up, is there a place people can go to check out this information themselves?
Yeah, so sanctuaries.noaa.gov is our website, and from there you'll learn about the entire National Marine Sanctuary System. Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary also has their own website too that you can go to. I would really encourage many of you to check out our virtual dive gallery. It's a really interactive resource that we have that if you look on your phone can kind of become an ocean window, or you can scroll in 360 degrees on a desktop or laptop as well. So that's a great way to place to check us out. We also have a great Flickr and YouTube channel with highlighting some of our media projects.
Fantastic. And we'll link that into the chat bar for everyone who's tuning in live as well, although it looks like Chad's back on track, so we can dive back in with him.
Yeah, my apologies there. Usually will only go wrong when you're actually presenting. So this slide here encompasses kind of a Dr. Seuss gallery of images we've taken down at Davidson Seamount over the years. We've been out multiple times in 2000, 2002, 2006, and a few times since. But this was all exploration of mostly the summit and the slopes of the Davidson Seamount. But we wanted to take a look at areas a couple of miles away, kind of the foothills of Davidson Seamount where no one had ever been. And that's where Ocean Exploration Trust comes in. This was founded by Dr. Robert Ballard, who famously discovered the Titanic in the 1980s. And he runs this operation, which is a fantastic exploration vessel called the Nautilus, with 2 ROVs that are attached together to explore the sea floor. This slide here shows a little bit about how that works. You have the Nautilus with 2 ROVs pictured at the bottom, the Argus and the Hercules, and these are all combined with satellite measurements, a gyroscope, and all this instrumentation on the boat, which can tell us the position of each of the ROVs so we know exactly where we are. And there's a big control van in which we have 2 pilots for the ROVs, a navigator, a video engineer, 3 scientists, and a couple other people who are making the whole operation run. And it's 24/7. So we have 3 shifts a day. So the ROVs can stay in the water for more than a couple of days at a time, which really increases the amount of science that we can do. So in 2018, which was our first trip out to Davidson Seamount with the Nautilus, they had a whole series of exploration expeditions, and we were one of them in Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Now, if you focus in on Monterey or on Davidson Seamount, we went to this area in box 1, which is in the lower right of the Davidson Seamount area. As you can see, it's not on the seamount itself, but it's along these rocky ridges that we explored that year, hoping to find more corals and sponges in the flanks of the seamount, because we need to characterize the entire area, the entire boundary. In fact, we have something called the management plan for each sanctuary, which basically tells us what we need to do, what our job is. And one of our jobs for Davidson Seamount is to the best of our ability, characterize the entire area. So that means exploration. We need to find out what's out there. So near the end of a 35-hour dive, we came across a little grouping of about 20 octopus here that you should be able to see in this video. There is no audio right now because that's hard to come over right now. Now, what was really odd is we see these octopus solitarily, but we've never seen them in a grouping like this. And we thought it was very interesting. So we settled down, and you may not be able to see this on the video, but we saw shimmering of the water, much like when you look across pavement on a hot summer day and you see those little waves coming up through the air. Well, it indicated to us, at least it told us, maybe that's warm water coming out of the seafloor. So I decided to go down to the east, down the flanks of the seamount. We had only about 45 minutes left in our dive, and we started to run into all sorts of these octopus lined up in cracks and crevices where there was shimmering water. And I'm going to go ahead and fast forward here a little bit, but you can see just the massive aggregations of these octopus everywhere. It was just fantastic. And it looks like my slideshow has done it again.
Well,
Again,
while you're dealing with that, we're getting questions in on the GoTo webinar control panel. One of the two places you are able to submit questions and answers. The other one being slido.com with the event code Monterey. They're wondering if these are adult octopi.
Yes, so what these are female, they're mothers. And what they've done is they've settled down into these rocks and they have cemented their eggs to the rock itself. And so they cluster into these areas. I'm going to go through a series of pictures here. I think the video was giving me a problem, and I do apologize, everyone. It had been working fine for a week. This is the first time I've ever seen it crash. That being said, they collect in these areas of warm water. And if you notice in this picture, there are also other things such as anemones and acorn worms and little shelled whelks, little snails everywhere. So there's a community that these warm water areas, at least at the time we assumed it was warm water, that they are supporting. So all these octopus mothers are essentially taking care of their young. They're covering them up. They are oxygenating them by blowing water, oxygenated water over them, and just making sure that they're going to be alive until they hatch. You can see some close-ups of some of the other animals in this community as well. And there's some other pulled back pictures of seeing the extent of these aggregations. Now, the amount of press that we did receive on the Nautilus was just exponentially more than what I would have ever thought would have happened. We were published in National Geographic, Associated Press, all the local newspapers. It went on and on and on. So this really caught fire and everyone got wind of it, which was fantastic, not only to educate people about the sanctuary, but about this new discovery as well. So we had a lot of questions after this first expedition. Is the water warm? Is the water lower in oxygen? Because there's only one other place like this ever discovered in the world, and it was off Costa Rica. It has about 150 individuals. Here, we conservatively estimate well over 1,000 mothers. This video and these pictures don't even really show you the tip of the iceberg of how many octopus are down there. Is the water chemistry the same? Why are the octopus there? Why do the moms want to cement their eggs here? Do they successfully reproduce here? That other population in Costa Rica never had any evidence of successful reproduction. All of the eggs were non-developed and they never saw anyone hatch. What are the roles of the other seep animals in this community? And are there more places like this? Is this a one-of-a-kind thing, or are these more common than we thought? So the BBC got wind of this, and they worked with Woods Hole, the Atlantis, and the human-occupied vehicle, or the submarine, Alvin, and we went out in March of 2019 to participate in a televised event called Blue Planet Live, which was a week-long event, and they broadcast from the Atlantis, and they invited me along, and I was able to participate and actually dive in the Alvin itself, and we went down to the Octopus Garden as well as some of the summits of the seamount. So it's just a fantastic opportunity. We were able to see more of these octopus mothers. We discovered a few more areas, and we were able to finally measure the temperature, which was fantastic. And the ambient temperature.
Oh, Chad, you cut out again for a second.
We'll give him a few more seconds to see if he can connect. Chad, if you are not able to connect, there is a way to switch your audio to phone call, and you can call in to the number with your phone.
Sorry for some of the technical difficulties, people, but I do really appreciate all the questions coming in our questions section in the chat bar and on Slido. There's been some really fantastic queries. We have also linked, Hannah had passed along earlier, the Sanctuaries NOAA.gov site and Monterey Bay's specific sanctuary site, so you can check those out in the chat bar as well, and I encourage you to do so. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, all our past sessions with NOAA are live on our YouTube channel, including, I believe, one in the past on Monterey Bay. So if we're unable to get this back up started, we can share that link with you guys, and I'll track that down and put it in our chat bar today.
In the meantime, I will look to see if I can share my screen and show the highlights of that Ocean Exploration Trust has with Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary.
Perfect.
I will go to, I'm on their website, so I might as well start sharing my screen now. I'm going to take away controls from Chad and go to myself. All right, so you should be seeing my screen. This is the nautiluslive.org. So this is Ocean Exploration Trust's website. They visited a number of national marine sanctuaries in 2019 and years previous, but here we have some of the expedition highlights from 2019. And I'm going to go to Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. There we have Chad King, who is our presenter today. He was the lead scientist on this expedition. And this was one of the major highlights from the expedition found on the last day. It is a whale fall.
I am back.
Oh, baby. Okay, it's phenomenal. We can't stop, can we?
We can stop and come back if you want.
Yeah. I think.
Let's take our time with it. And then
I think
we
it's
have to
worth
come
it.
back anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my god.
Okay. Yeah, this is worth a stop.
This is like a baleen whale, and you can still see the baleen.
Yes, the baleen is still there. Oh, this is great.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
So this was found at the bottom of Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. If you listen closely, Chad's voice is actually narrating parts of this video.
So yeah, this is
The
dinner bell ringing, right?
Yes.
We are so excited up here to say.
Yes, come and get it.
Yeah, dinner is
Do we have
served.
any
And if,
bone ears?
Bridge, if we could track a line back.
So
There's still
I don't
soft
see any red
tissue on
tentacles or
it.
anything yet.
I see some brown fuzz on the vertebrae.
Yeah.
I mean, on the ribs. So those
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah.
So fantastic to hear scientists like this, Hannah. It's so unusual and not something that a lot of people get the chance to do. It's such a neat feature of these expeditions. Chad is back, by the way, and his should be all set to go whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I will switch over the presenters to Chad. Oh, and I see two of them. So two Chads are now online. So if I did not get the right one.
Let's see. Hey, Chad, welcome back in.
Hey, thank you. I do apologize for the extreme technical difficulties we're having today.
Chad, did you get the request to share your screen?
No, I have not. Oh, there we go. I have it. Okay. Well, I do have federal government equipment, so maybe I need to revisit the need to replace it. Okay, So if you can see my screen now, I will just continue where I left off, and I know we don't have much time left. But one of the most exciting things that we found out was not only the warm water, we confirmed the water coming out of the seafloor was up to 10.4 degrees Celsius. Now that may only be in the mid 50s Fahrenheit, but the water down there is normally near freezing, about 33 to 35 degrees Fahrenheit, or 1.6 degrees Celsius. So we confirmed it was warm water coming out, but then we saw baby octopus that you see in the pictures here. Not only the developed eyes of octopus within the egg cases itself, but also the actual hatchlings coming out as well. So we established that this is a reproductive viable place. So we wanted to go back with the Nautilus in October of 2019. Now I will say in between, we were able to work with Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute and Dr. Jim Barry to visit the octopus garden on 2 very, very short dives in April and August. And we were able to collect a bunch of samples of the eggs, the octopus, and some of the other animals and water chemistry as well. And we're still working up those data. But we were able to go back in 2019 and we fully explored the area. Here's a blown up map showing kind of the circuitous route we took along these sea cliffs that were deep, deep underwater. We also brought a new piece of instrumentation which measured not only just the temperature, but the oxygen levels. Down in Costa Rica, they found that oxygen was inversely related to temperature. So basically, the warmer the water, the lower the oxygen. And Costa Rica was a couple of degrees warmer, and it's theorized, hypothesized that maybe the oxygen was too low for those eggs to develop. But maybe here it's like Goldilocks. They've hit a sweet spot where it's warm enough to maybe speed up their development, but it still has enough oxygen to enable the eggs to develop and to thrive. We also put out some water chemistry samplers as well, and some long-term temperature loggers. Now, what's really exciting about it is that all the measurements we've taken so far are instant, so we know the temperature right at that second. The instruments we left out last October are going to be recording those bits of information over a whole year, and that's why we're going to be going back this October in 2020. We also were able to collect water out of these seeps to understand their chemistry and other factors within it. So we did come across this population of egg cases, which were full of developing embryos, and we saw one of these little shrimps come up and try to feed on one of the eggs, which is one of the reasons the mothers protect their eggs. It caused this little baby octopus to hatch, and what ensued was kind of a miniaturized Godzilla versus Mothra kind of event, and they struggled and fought with each other for probably about 2 minutes. Until the baby octopus did successfully escape and get free, just to let everyone know it made it. So we saw more and more of these hatchlings in October of 2019. So now we're finding that they're hatching all over the place. And so this is a very successful reproductive site. So we found more and more of these aggregations of octopus everywhere where warm water was coming up. It was just a fantastic expedition. Now, this is a shot from the smaller ROV called Argus. It floats above the Hercules to give us these kind of sky views of the area, which are really, really good to kind of show you the context of the whole seascape. And you can see all the little mother octopuses tucked away in their hovels there. So dive number 2, we followed this circuitous, this route along these seawalls here, looking for more corals and sponges. And we found these really, really amazing tall sedimentary cliffs, some of which were more than 50 meters tall. But we didn't find much in the way of corals and sponges because this sediment erodes fairly quickly, so things can't stay attached for long enough to live for hundreds of years. Some of these corals are many centuries old. Some of them, like bamboo and black corals, could be over 1,000 years old. Here's a shot from the Argus looking down on the Hercules against one of these large seawalls. And at the end of this wall, we decided we wanted to investigate this cone up in the upper right here of this map. We dubbed it the octocone. But in between, we came across what Hannah has already showed you, which was this incredible whale fall. It was about maybe 20 feet long. You can see the size of the ROV Hercules here against the whale fall itself. But what was amazing about this is that there's only been about 75 whale falls ever discovered in the world. Most of them are just bones. This, however, still had organic material, flesh all over it, including its heart tissue, the aorta, baleen in the front of the skull here, and it was still covered with these secondary predators like eel pouts, other fishes, octopus, and crustaceans. It was just incredible. We were able to spend several hours here and actually collected samples of tissue, of bones, and of these little things called bone-eating worms. And it's that red fuzz that you see growing off of the jawbone here of this particular whale. Yep. This is probably the worst, there we go. The worst I've ever seen this perform. And I do apologize today for the problem. So if you look at this close-up view here of these bone-eating worms, they're called ossidacs. They actually don't have stomachs. They live with a symbiotic bacteria that lives within their tissue. They put their rootlets into the bone itself, and they actually dissolve the whale fats and oils in the bone, and the symbiotic bacteria basically consume them and produce carbon. So they don't actually eat, they just consume what the bacteria excrete. So it's this really cool relationship between the two. So we were able to collect some of those ossidacs as well. And I'll skip through some of this stuff because I know we're running short on time. But a whale fall can supply food for the deep sea for a very long period of time. First, scavengers will come in, then the secondary scavengers, the bone-eating worms, and eventually there'll be a bone reef left over after many years. So the whale falls really are a bonanza. In fact, it's estimated up to 200 years worth of food can be deposited to the seafloor all at one time. The bones can last up to 100 years or more. And it's estimated that our whale fall was around 4 months old, so it's extremely rare to find a fresh whale fall. Usually they're many, many years old. So on our way to that second cone, again, we only had about an hour left in the dive, and I really wanted to make it to the top. And nearing the top, we found some seeping hot water, but no octopus. But I pushed on. I said, guys, let's drop everything. We got to make it to the top. I have a gut feeling about this. And sure enough, as we kind of came and crested over the summit, we found lines and lines and lines of more of these mother octopus brooding their eggs. And you can see in some of these pictures here, they're lined up in these cracks and crevices once again. It was just an incredible discovery. It's now the third official octopus nursery in the world. This one was found about 6 miles away from our original discovery. So they are not the same. They are totally different neighborhoods. And here's a shot from above from Argus. So we did end up collecting a lot of samples that were preserved in various media. All of these things are farmed out to other scientists to kind of work on. And that's what's so great about this whole Nautilus crew, is that we have a bunch of scientists that are involved, receive samples, and it really amplifies the amount of science that we can conduct. Scientists can also chime in a virtual chat room and assist us in collecting these samples, which was crucial at the whale fall. I'm not a whale fall expert. I am not a bone-eating worm expert, but people were able to get online and tell me, collect A, B, and C, and this is how you should preserve them.
Hey,
so as far as,
Chad,
yeah.
we are getting a few questions about what exactly is a whale fall.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so a whale fall, it sounds like a rock group, doesn't it? So what happens is a whale will, pass away for whatever reason. It could be, old age or disease or what have you. And some whales stay afloat, and I'm sure you've seen stories about whales being beached. Well, some whales sink, and that's what happens here. This is a whale that died at the surface and then sank, and it sank here over 2 miles. So no one knows where to find them. It's completely serendipitous and pure luck when you do come across them. And when they do hit the seafloor, immediately the deep sea denizens will come and scavenge that whale fall for its flesh, and then eventually those secondary organisms, like I told you, come in and kind of get the rest of it. And then you have things like the bone-eating worms and bacteria and other things that infiltrate the carcass. They use every last ounce of energy that is deposited on the seafloor. So it's a very important source of food, even though it's very sporadic, because it can, again, supply a bonanza to the deep sea. And in fact, those bone-eating worms that I showed you were only discovered by MBARI in 2002. So they're relatively new to science. So we were able to collect some of these bone-eating worms on bones, and I was working with one of the scientists down there, and she sequenced the DNA, and it is a brand new species of bone-eating worm. So we're working on a paper for that right now, but I'm just over the moon about that because there's only 30-something species described so far, and we discovered another one. So coming up in this next year, we're going to be doing some higher resolution mapping of the area so we can basically get a better picture of the seafloor. It's just like a fuzzy photograph right now. We'll get a really highly detailed photograph of the shape of the seafloor itself. And then this October in 2020, we're going to be going out a third time with the Nautilus, and we'll be retrieving all of those temperature and oxygen loggers I talked about. And then we're going to explore additional targets for more potential octopus sites. So why is this important as I wrap up here? Why are they there? Does the warm water act as a cheat code for reproduction? Now, the shallow warm water octopus, let's take, for example, here on the West Coast, we have the giant Pacific octopus. It only takes 3 months for its eggs to hatch. Very, very quick. In the deep sea, everything takes much, much longer. The metabolism is much lower. Everything happens at a much slower pace. In fact, one species of deep sea octopus was tracked by MBARI, and it took her 54 months from laying her eggs to when they hatch. That's 4.5 years. Now, we don't know how long this species of octopus takes, but it's assumed probably at least a couple of years. Well, the warm water raises the temperature of the eggs and probably speeds up development. So that's our leading theory right now, is the warm water will help them basically reduce the amount of time they have to protect their eggs, reduce the amount of time that predators can eat them, and increase the number of babies essentially they can make year after year after year. So Davidson Seamount itself may support many more octopus nurseries. Basically, this water comes in through the seamount, goes underneath the Earth's crust or through the Earth's crust, gets slightly warmed, and then comes out in weak areas of the crust, these cracks and fissures that we see in the seafloor. Obviously, this would be a very new and important story to tell about the sanctuary itself. We have our iconic sea otters and kelp forests and great white sharks and humpback whales and all these wonderful stories that most people are familiar with. This is something entirely brand new, but Davidson Seamount may be very important to supporting these nurseries. So if this is true, then many other seamounts may be supporting nurseries of octopus and perhaps other diverse communities of organisms. So confirmation of this, now that we've found 2, may lead to further protection of seamounts around the world. So this is all very applicable and important research. So I just wanted to thank a whole list of people here, from the Nautilus to Woods Hole, the BBC, MBARI, and a bunch of my colleagues that I've worked with, and of course my family, for dealing with my my absence and being out at sea for those periods of time. But that kind of wraps up my presentation. I do apologize for the technical difficulties, but this was a crew of our Nautilus crew in 2019. So it takes a very large team of individuals to run expeditions like these, and this is just showing you the amount of people that were awake for this photo. There's another double this size, they're asleep right now. So it shows you how many people it does take to make this work. So it's been a fantastic ride, and we hope to discover a lot more.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Chad, for such a beautiful presentation. And I mean, tech issues aside, the imagery and the videos there were just spectacular. As we've said, we've shared in the chat bar links to find out more about Monterey Bay, specifically about all of NOAA's amazing sanctuaries. What we're going to do now is dive in with some great questions. So you guys have been sharing questions on the chat, in Slido, and more. So we're going to take as many as we can over the next 15 or so minutes. So a first one for you, Chad, is from Paige, and it's: what characteristics allow marine life to live thousands of meters down under this immense pressure and in complete darkness? How do they survive down there to begin with?
That's a great question. For a lot of the invertebrates, including the corals and sponges, the pressure doesn't necessarily affect them that much. They have been, adapted to live at those depths. And mind you, these corals do not share a lot of the characteristics of what you may be familiar with in terms of shallow coral reefs if you go on vacation and snorkel and what have you. They have a zooxanthellae, basically an algae that lives within them that photosynthesizes light and produces food. It's a symbiotic relationship. Well, there's no sunlight down at these depths. So these corals have these individual polyps that come out, and they rely exclusively on them being able to feed on nutrients coming out through the water. So they actually have to grab all of the food and bring it back in and feed it as a whole colony. Now, I will say that bony fishes do require special enzymes to help with proteins folding in weird ways when you go too deep. And so at these depths, you do have some of these fishes that have these special enzymes and antifreeze, mind you, in some of them as well, to prevent from actually freezing down there. If in some areas it can get that cold. But for the most part, it's certainly an inhospitable habitat. It is very sparse in food. And so a lot of these animals have adapted to be slow growing, have low energy requirements, and being able to take advantage of these episodic, say, whale falls. Some fishes have little lures on their head to attract prey. Some use bioluminescence to attract or ward off predators. It's quite a remarkable feat that these animals have pulled off, but it has been over millions and millions of years of evolution.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chad. All right, we had a question from a 5-year-old, and she wanted to ask, are the octopus from the area around from where you found them, or do they travel there to lay their eggs?
Great question, man. That is a very astute one, and one that we do not have an answer to. We do see, we've seen now over 1,000, maybe 1,500 octopus at this one site, and we have questions about that. How would they be able to sense the warm water from far away? Probably not. Do they have migration patterns? Well, probably not, but we're not sure. How do so many octopus come across this site and find it? Is it just pure happenstance where many mothers are coming across here and as they get close, they sense it and are able to settle down? Or is there something more instinctual built in, or some long range communication, either by something in the water, some chemical they're sensing, because they certainly aren't going to be sensing heat from far away. The other question we have is, we've seen these little babies hatch. Now, baby octopus typically will go up into the water column for a period of time, feed and grow before they settle back down. And they're probably more at the whim of the currents at that point. So we assume that some of these babies are taken quite far away from this site. So again, are they the mothers coming in now? Are they from this site originally? Are they from hundreds of miles or even further away that just come across this site? But that is a fantastic question, and one we just can't answer right now.
Yeah, I love when 5-year-olds can stump top scientists. That's half of what they talk about. All right, there's a huge variety of versions of this question, and that is the Davidson Seamount. It's an incredible place, obviously, totally unique in our experience so far. But is this the sort of place that we expect to find other places in the ocean? Do you think it's a one-off, or are we searching for more places that might host this sort of life?
Right. With more than 10 or 20,000 seamounts in the world easily. In fact, some estimates are over 60,000 seamounts. And that's a mountain that's more than 1,000 meters tall, by the way, on the seafloor. I would surmise there's got to be more. There's got to be more. I don't believe that Davidson Seamount would be the only place harboring one, now 2 nurseries that we know of. And mind you, we've discovered 2 octopus nurseries in 2 dives. So we're batting 1,000 right now. One was luck, one was kind of an educated guess. So we're going to be exploring more of these targets. And if we find a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th in the future, then I'd say it's a pretty good chance that other seamounts, maybe not everyone, but a certain percentage will be harboring this. And these things will be much more common than we thought, but also an important way to repopulate the entire population of octopus itself. One reason it probably is not well known at this point is when seamounts are explored, typically scientists will only look at their summits and their flanks, not a few miles away in, again, the foothills, because it's more muddy. The corals and sponges aren't as big. It's not as, quote, exciting. But what we stumbled into here, I hope promotes a lot of new research in that area.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chad. All right. We had a question from Carrie on our go-to webinar. She wanted to know, is this a place that people could go and just explore themselves? Could they scuba dive there? Could they, and you can segue that to all your marine sanctuaries, but we can focus on Monterey Bay specifically too. So can you go there yourself?
Unfortunately, no. Certainly, if you were able to participate in one of these cruises, which you have to, there are internships you can apply for. There are scientists at sea. There's a variety of programs for people to actually get involved in this kind of stuff. Nautilus, or the Ocean Exploration Trust, has a college program in which you can apply to become an intern or a science communication fellow, or someone who can participate in this line of research. But as far as a member from the public, yeah, you would have to have a remotely operated vehicle or a submarine to get down there. There is no way to scuba dive down to those depths. However, Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary has a lot of coastline, over 276 miles of it. And like I said, I've scuba dived, most of the central coast of California in our sanctuary, and there's so many beautiful ways to get into our sanctuary itself, not just scuba diving, but of course, kayaking, surfing, all sorts of activities like that.
Yeah, outstanding. All right, so sanctuaries in the name of all these amazing places. And when people think of sanctuaries, they think of a place that's protected. So you found this incredible new location, and how is it sort of enforced, so to speak? How do we make sure that these areas are protected for decades and centuries to come?
Right. So with over 6,000 miles of sanctuary to manage, we have one enforcement officer. So you do the math there. It's basically an impossibility to enforce. It is something that we rely upon the community to give us reports on what is happening. And there could be marine mammal disturbance, or a drone flying in the wrong area, or someone illegally fishing in an area. Now, the sanctuary doesn't manage all those things, but we sometimes are made aware of it, and we notify the proper authorities who police kind of those areas itself. So we really trust on the public to kind of check themselves and check their fellow citizens. That's what we really do have to rely on. But in rare circumstances, there are times in which enforcement is exercised, and actually cases are brought to court and people are prosecuted for various things that are prohibited in the sanctuary itself. But for the most part, for example, cruise ships, we do have them come into Monterey. They're not allowed to discharge their water in the sanctuary. And so we will periodically board their ships and check their logs and make sure that they're not doing things like that. So enforcement is a difficult thing to do, but we try to do our best.
Fantastic, Chad. I just want to harp on something for a quick second. Why would they not be wanting to why would we not want them to dump their water into the sanctuary? Is there something specific about that we're trying to avoid?
All sorts of stuff from, if you have some oil or gas or something like that mixed in there. And of course, there's wastewater from maybe a marine head. You don't want that going into the sanctuary. There could be things that eutrophy the water, basically nitrogen and phosphorus, the things that will cause artificial blooms, and just heavy metals and poisons and all of these nasty things that people store aboard their vessels that we don't want getting into our sanctuary. So yeah, we prohibit basically all discharge into the sanctuary.
Perfect. All right, we're going to take one more question before we wrap up with Hannah, who's going to share a little bit of a wrap-up series of slides for us today. As I've said, there's all sorts of great resources you can check out on NOAA's sites to learn even more. But Chad, I want to wrap up with this, and it's more of a personal question for you from Maya. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to basically end up with your career? You've got what sounds like the coolest job in the world. How does someone get it?
Oh man, that's a great question. So I get this one a lot from younger people. And when I was a kid, I wanted to be either a Major League Baseball player, a paleontologist, a marine biologist, or a doctor. Those were kind of what I set out as a young child. And as I got older, I really started focusing on marine biology. I myself was afraid of the ocean as a kid. I'd go into the beach just to my knees because I was afraid of what might be lurking underneath that's going to grab me. So I kind of wanted to fight that fear with knowledge. And the more and more I learned about the oceans, the more I was intrigued and the more my fears just completely abated away, to the fact, to the point now where I'm scuba diving regularly and going in titanium spheres 2 miles deep and not having any fear of it. I'd say what is really important is to have the passion, just like I was describing there. It's not something that, oh, it's a hobby, I'm kind of interested. It's something that you really should be interested, either from an environmental perspective, an intellectual curiosity perspective, or, to help the world's oceans, something around those tenets. I would also say that obviously you got to do okay in school. You got to have an aptitude for math and science, of course, and be very inquisitive. There's a lot of the scientific method that we need to apply in the work that we do. And so you need to have that objectivity to be able to look at figures and data. Even if it goes against what you thought is the cause, you have to accept science for what it is and go with that. So basically, try not to be too biased, right? All humans are biased to a certain degree. And then a third, network, get out there as you get into high school and college and afterwards. This is when you got to be reading up on papers, introducing yourself online to professors, joining clubs, attending presentations, going to talks that are free at local universities and clubs. And that's where you get to start meeting people and getting internships. And that's really where the power of networking comes in, because that will open up a lot of doors for you, especially if you are outgoing and kind of exude that interest in science itself. And so it's definitely not a career with a plentiful cache of jobs, shall we say. You really do have to make it what you can and kind of be in the right place at the right time, but it's not all luck. You really need to put your work into it.
I also want to emphasize everything that Chad said, especially his third point about networking and the importance of that, and the importance of networking with your passion. I, like Chad, was interested in marine science, but soon found out after a few internships that my passion was in marine education and marine communication. So I'm still working in the world of marine science, but finding my niche with education and communication. So it doesn't always need to be marine biologist, oceanographer. There's many other careers that get you working with the ocean as well. So I wanted to highlight some of those.
Well, thanks, huge thanks to both of you for really beautiful and thoughtful answers. I want to stress too, we've had, whether it's NOAA scientists or marine scientists around the world before, that they consistently highlight that at 8 years old, you can start on the path online to getting scuba certification. And by 10, you can actually begin pool work to become scuba certified. And it's a really beautiful way to open up over 70% of the world to you for exploration. So I'd encourage you to do that from here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And I think now we're going to wrap up with a few slides from Hannah to just end off the presentation today.
Yeah, I want to thank the over 400 of you that stayed on through all of our adaptations to the technical difficulties today. Chad did a wonderful job keeping us engaged through his presentation, and I definitely learned a ton about Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. So thank you so much, Chad.
Oh, absolutely. Glad to have been here. And again, I do apologize. I will contact IT.
I think we might have overwhelmed the system, actually, because I got booted off at one point too. So I think that it's just the excitement of Monterey Bay that overwhelmed GoToWebinar. But I do want to point out that our interactions are recorded and hosted on Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants YouTube page. So far we've done 2 events with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, so you can check those out on their page. This event will go up in a few days as soon as we get it downloaded and uploaded to YouTube. We do have upcoming live interactions, including one tomorrow with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, where we really hope to have our webcams up and running and all of the glitches fixed before then. We also have the National Marine Sanctuaries webinar series, which is geared towards educators and providing them the resources they need to teach about marine science in the classroom. We also promote Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants and all of the scientists and explorers that they host on their platform. And then NOAA also has a once-a-month webinar series with Ocean Today. So these are all ways that you can connect with science, the ocean, and exploration. The webinar I mentioned that is tomorrow is Exploring the Sounds of Gray's Reef National Marine Sanctuary. This is the sanctuary that is the live bottom corals, and they're going to be talking about the sounds the fish make there. So that should be a fascinating one tomorrow. Same platform. You can register from Sanctuaries Live, the webpage. It's actually sanctuaries.noaa.gov/live under live interactions. On Tuesday, we'll be going to Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, exploring the lake bed. This was another grantee with Ocean Exploration Trust, where we did research in 2019. So it's super exciting. The little yellow vehicle you see in this photograph is an autonomous surface vehicle that mapped parts of Lake Huron. So very fascinating work. They were looking for shipwrecks. And then we also are talking about deep sea exploration again, but in Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary on May 15th. So these are the next 3 programs we're running with Exploring by the Sea to Your Pants. We really hope you are encouraged to register for these and tune in as well. And then following this program, if you are an adult and able to complete a brief up to 3 minutes survey about distance learning and the resources that you would best benefit from, please fill out the survey that follows this. We do pull from it to create new programs, taking your topics, taking your tips and tricks into account. So please fill out that survey. And with that, that's all that I have. I want to thank both Jesse and Chad again tremendously for bearing with us as we dealt with these technical difficulties and putting on a great presentation. So thank you both again, and thanks to all of the attendees who tuned in and partook with great questions and fun Slido answers.
Fantastic. Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you. As this, I believe, unless Jesse or Chad have anything today to say, this will conclude today's webinar.
All good. Thank you so much, and we're good to go.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.